Hey, this is John Sadak, TV voice of the Cincinnati Reds, and you're up for Late Night Reds Talk.
What is up, everybody? It is Wednesday night, and you know what that means. Another edition of Late Night Reds Talk Live here on YouTube with you wonderful people. I am Tim Daniel, and even though our Reds are not playing tonight in the NL Wild Card, I am in good spirits, and I'll tell you why. 21st Amendment, hell or high watermelon. Highly suggest it. Very good. So really excited to kind of go around the panel as always. Former big leaguer himself, our man, Carlos Guevara.
What's up, boys? How you doing?
Doing great, man. How are you?
No complaints here other than watching the stupid Cardinals and the stupid Dodgers, both teams I couldn't hate more.
I know, man. I know. At least the Yankees lost last night, you know?
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. All right. So also from Red Leg Nation, our guy, our El Capitano, the man who puts it all together for us, our good friend Nicholas Kirby.
What's going on, fellas? Welcome to the
How
off
are you,
season.
sir? The off season has arrived. Our first off season show. How about that? And joining us tonight, and I'm going to get this right because I totally got this wrong last time and I'm on his shit list for it. This is our first ever 3-time guest on Late Night Reds Talk Live, our good friend, and hopefully yours, Clay Snowden. What's up, buddy?
I'm just trying to hold back the tears after that beautiful introduction.
Man, I got a workout in right before the show. And then I got stuck behind this really bad accident, like right outside my gym. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it to the show on time. So I got scared, but I made it. We're here. I'm happy to be here with you guys. Hopefully you are joining us in the YouTube chats tonight, and you've got some fun things to talk about as we're going to go over and recap the season. We're going to go month by month, talk about everything that happened throughout the year. We're going to go position by position. And we have Clay here to pick his brain about some minor league guys. When we get there, if we didn't run too long on the show. I'm really, really curious, and we'll get to this later, but a kind of little teaser here. You know, we like to play the teaser game in the podcast biz. Clay, I really cannot wait to get your analysis and your scouting report on Reimer Sanmartin because his 2 starts, he had the big leagues. I was very impressed. But that is for later in the show. Gentlemen, it has obviously been the year of hell. And my dad just texted me and asked if Matt Scherzer picks his pitches for the Reds now because he's thrown 55 pitches or 2 1/3. It's kind of funny. I'm not going to lie. Can't be mad at him for that. So obviously this was we've talked about this all season. Depending who you talk to, everyone had different opinions at the start of the year, who the Reds were going to be. Are they going to be a team competing for a playoff spot? Are they going to be in the playoffs? Are they going to be a bottom feeder? Some people had them competing with the Pirates for last place, which was asinine to me, but that's neither here nor there. So this season obviously fell apart at the seams. It was obviously a blast of a season. It was our first year doing Late Night Reds Talk Live. We had a really fun team to cover each and every week. But let's start in April. Obviously, opening day did not go the way of the Reds as Luis Castillo got rocked a little bit, but led shortly after that to a 6-game win streak. Shortly after that, a big losing streak, including getting beat 2 out of 3 by the Diamondbacks. I'll never forget Tyler Mahle having a 4-inning no-hitter before getting pulled for throwing too many pitches in Arizona. And Jesse Winker getting a home run robbed from him in Arizona, not by a player, by a chair.
I forgot about that. Wow.
But
good memory, Tim.
Thank you. Did you like that little rhyme thing I did?
Impressive stuff.
Thanks, guys. I'm here all week. And then also in that month, Carlos Guevara became a full-time member of Late Night Reds Talk Live. So that's how I like to remember April, and not the losing streak to the Giants starting out.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah. So overall in April, Nick Castellanos, obviously the play at the plate, gets suspended, starts a great season. Jesse Winker starts a great season. We're already asking questions about how many more games can Carson Fulmer pitch for the Reds. But overall, April was kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, the Reds went 12-13. It was just April kind of probably is maybe one of the better months to kind of describe the entire season of just kind of the ups and downs, you know, that you saw in that month. The great start, the big losing streak, and then they came back and, you know, won back-to-back series against the Dodgers and Cubs. So, yeah, I mean, Tyler Naquin got off to a great start. Really, the entire Reds offense got off to a great start. Winker, Castellanos, Stevenson, Barnhart were all clicking. And, you kind of saw, glimpses of what could be. And then, but there was still things, like Suarez, especially with his defense. And Castillo got off to the brutal start. And it was just, one of those things where so many things went right and so many things went wrong. And it was kind of the story of the whole season, really.
Yeah, it feels like there was almost like more stuff going wrong than there was going right. I mean, Castillo he was awful. The defense at shortstop wasn't good. I mean, Joey was hitting 100-mile-an-hour rockets right at everybody.
Yeah.
It just nothing could seem to go together. The bullpen wasn't quite blowing all the leads yet. That was more, I guess, kind of at the beginning of May. But it was a rough start, and to be like right around 500 was almost kind of a, we'll take it considering all things considered.
Yeah, I actually, you all are lucky with your timing. I just finished an article yesterday for Just Baseball recapping the Reds season, so I have 3 pages of numbers and notes here.
My man.
And I led off with April, and as I was looking deeper into April, I just kept thinking, like, what the hell? Like, how did I forget all of the ups and downs? It was, I do remember on Twitter, everyone saying this is the same old Reds after opening day when they blew the lead. Then everyone saying this team is amazing because we're 6-1. And then everyone saying, this team sucks because we lost to the Diamondbacks. 5 losses to the Diamondbacks, including a sweep. And I know Nick says this all the time, and so do I. Every single game counts the same. When you're in April, you don't feel that way. But when you look back at the end of the year and you're thinking, okay, we have to do this exact, strategy with our pitcher use so we can win this one game. Well, it would have been a lot easier if you won just a couple of those games in Arizona. But April is just wild. Winker was off to that hot start. I actually have his numbers here: 370, 414, 679 with 6 home runs in April. That offense just started off hot. April is a fun month, and it's kind of weird thinking when I look back on it that they were actually a game under 500.
Do you remember in April, Jonathan India wasn't playing every day? And we were like, if he's not going to get many at bats, maybe they should send him back to Louisville for a little bit. And then like the next month, it was like, suckers.
Yeah, I tweeted out a picture of his Baseball Savant page, and it looked bad. And my whole tweet about it was just kind of a, this is a rookie. This is not what he's going to be. But right now, I don't know what to think of him after the hot spring. And then a month after that tweet, I tweeted another picture of his Baseball Savant page that looked drastically different. And now he's, rookie of the year.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. That was kind of like, I think as Carlos said, there wasn't a ton of blown games by the bullpen, but you started getting glimpses that things weren't going right. Because if you listen, I listened back to a little bit of our day before the season preview, and we were all pretty optimistic about the bullpen. It was just one of those years where all the fringe guys didn't pitch well. Like all the guys we thought, like the Senal Perez's of the world, the Carson Fulmers, none of them pitched well. And then on top of that was Amir Garrett, who we all said, pump the brakes. We like Garrett. He's a solid pitcher, but he walks too many guys to be like this, relief ace that I think everyone thought going into the season he was going to be. And boy, and that 3-run home run he gave to Josh Van Meter, what a gut punch that was. And then
it was the grand slam when they were up like 8-0 in one game.
Yeah. The Reds also lost the game to the Diamondbacks where they scored 11 runs. Mm-hmm. I mean, how? It's hard to even fathom. But then the Reds won that one fluky game against the Indians with that the play through the legs of the first baseman, Josh Naylor. So yeah, just a weird month. The Reds winning 1 of 3 in San Francisco actually, I think, aged well. At the time, we're like, oh, Reds just lost a series to the Giants, and now it's like, oh yeah, that's actually pretty impressive. They went in there, got a win. It's always funny how at the end of the year you look back and things that you thought were a big deal, like, oh, that really wasn't that big of a deal, or the other way around, it is, and just the interesting intricacies of a baseball season.
I don't think I'll ever forget when they went into LA and won 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. Like, there was the game when Winker has the big homer, and then the next night Joey has like the go-ahead hit off a lefty into the right field gap to like bring the runners in to take the lead. And they lost the last game 8-0, but none of us cared because we're like, oh, Sonny Gray pitched pretty well. And we're like, okay, so we're like, they're coming home for the Cubs. We'll be cool. And I just remember being so excited. They took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers and didn't even care they lost the last game the way they did.
That was the series that Nick Senzel led off, and I complained, and I think he had 4 hits, and that was just
couple
about
walks.
That's pretty sad. If like the one highlight of Nick Senzel's season was his like 4-hit game, and that was it. But I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, Heath Hembry pitched against the Dodgers, and he actually pitched pretty well, which is surprising. And I actually tweeted out an hour before he got DFA'd his stats against the Dodgers, and they're just like incredible for his career. It's only like 5 games, but still, like, the guy just owns the Dodgers.
Reds won a game in Dodger Stadium. Pitchers for the night: Jeff Hoffman, Jose De Leon, Ryan Hendricks, Carson Fulmer, Heath Embry, and Sean Doolittle. That was the entire 9 innings pitched by the Reds.
Is Jeff Hoffman the only one left on the team at the end of the year? Like on the active roster?
Yeah. Sean Doolittle's pitching in do or die games for Seattle, though, so good for him.
Yeah.
And they died.
Oh, man. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there was some definitely highs and lows there. Clay, it's so funny you bring up the whole Nick Senzel thing, because if you go back and listen to those episodes in April that we did, I was like, man, he's getting so good in the box. His eyes getting better. He's drawing walks, and it's like, and then he's gone. And I don't think he'll ever play for the Reds again. But that's a story for another time.
I refuse to let myself become a fan of anyone named Nick, honestly.
Good call. It's a good call. So
sorry, Nick Castellanos.
Yeah. Clay hates Castellanos.
Somebody doesn't want you back.
Wow.
Ryan, friend of the show, Ryan Castellanos, if you're listening, which I know you are because you love our show so much.
We won't have you on with Clay. We'll assure you of that.
So, yeah, because I went to 2 games the first week. So I went to the first Sunday game against the Cardinals, and that was the first game I took my then fiance, and they won like I think 12-1 or something crazy like that. And then at the Friday night game against the Indians, they won 12-3. Her first 2 games she'd ever gone to, and I had to be like, it's not normally like this, I promise. But yeah, like I took her like 6 times this year. She went 5-1 with like a run differential of like plus 30. So
season tickets next year. Let's go.
Yeah, season tickets next year. I'm in. Let's go to May real quick because it starts with, they lose to the Cubs 3-2. And then that Sunday game, they had that 13-12 walk-off, which was pretty electric. They had the 2 games with the White Sox, the infamous game where they won 1-0 in extras because Tony La Russa didn't know the base runner rule. You get a series in there with the Pirates. You win 2 out of 3. You go to Colorado, take 2 out of 4. You get swept by the Giants. You only win 1 against Milwaukee in 3. And then you get 2 or 3 in Washington. At this point, I am on my honeymoon, so I did not get to watch many of these games. I got married on the Saturday. They lost to the Brewers at home. That was a pretty rough day to my addition to my wedding day. But they go to the Cubs.
Was your wedding day rough?
No, it was awesome, minus the Reds losing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then, of course, they go to Wrigley, and they have a 1-0 loss on Friday, the debut of Vladimir Gutierrez. They lose 10-2. Then they win. They end the month with a 11-1 win against the Phillies, where Max Schrock kicks ass. So May was a little. Again, we're still on this roller coaster wave of a team. But this is also Joey breaks his thumb. This is Nick Senzel officially being out for the year, or at least we didn't think at that point. Moose is hurt at this point, and it was a little scary there for a bit going into June.
When did sticky substance go away?
Around that time.
Is that June?
In June.
Because I'm looking at the
June
losses
20th.
at the losses in May, and I think there's one bullpen guy that's got a loss. The rest is on the starters.
Yeah, the bullpen had a lot of games where they
Doolittle got a win over Givens.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Givens threw like 2 wild pitches that scored runs in that game.
And that's when management said, we need that guy. Bring him.
Yeah, I think that month it looked really bad, but 4 of those losses were to the Giants. And they went 12 and 15 in the month. 4 of the losses were to the Giants. I think the Reds split a series in Colorado, and we're like, they should have won more. Well, Colorado ended up with like one of the best home records in baseball this year. Maybe that month really wasn't as bad. I mean, the Reds did get down to 22 and 28, and that's when their season looked to be kind of on the ropes before they really rebounded. But yeah, they beat Scherzer, they beat Strasburg that month. Just
one of Strasburg's like 6 starts this year.
Yeah. Gino took Scherzer deep. So yeah, that was the Castellanos month. Castellanos 409, 476, 667 that month.
Yeah, he was crazy. May was a bit weird. I mean, you had the Wade Miley no-hitter, which I was watching at a sports bar in Cincinnati because I was going to Cleveland the next day for the game. So I missed it by 1 game. The thing that just drives me crazy is you lost 2 games to Colorado in Colorado when you scored 8 and 6 runs and you can't beat the Rockies. Those games were so frustrating. You had the 4 losses against the Giants. Castillo had an over 8 ERA. Sonny Gray had a 2.20 ERA. And I'm pretty sure the same week that the Reds lost the Giants, just to paint the picture across the MLB, was the same week that Spencer Turnbull had a no-hitter and Corey Kluber, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And that's when everyone started talking about, like, we're going to have 75 no-hitters. Like, no-hitters suck, which was the strangest thing. Like, no-hitters are cool. Like, just enjoy things. But the Reds were 12 and 15 in May. Pretty much the same slash line as April. I mean, really at this point, it's still a small sample size, but I remember kind of thinking, like, this is not a great baseball team.
I think no-hitters I don't think they suck, but I'm kind of got to the point where I won't even turn on a no-hitter if it's just a random Spencer Turnbull.
They happen like 7 times a year, and people act like they happen weekly.
Perfect game or bust for me. I don't,
percentage-wise,
really
it's still extremely rare.
Yeah, it's overrated though.
I'm with Clay on this one. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, me too. Nick, we're fighting.
Party pooper.
Yeah. Well,
what's the matter with you? I had 0 in my entire life. I couldn't even get one when I was 12.
Hey, you know who threw 4 shutout innings in the month of May? Ashton Goudeau. 4 shutout innings for the Reds. I don't think it's talked about enough.
I thought you were literally going to say Alex Blandino.
That was a big loss that we haven't talked about. Out of the bullpen.
Alex Blandino did throw 2 1/3 shutout innings that month.
Hey, at Colorado was beating everybody at home.
Yeah, I don't. A split there, man. That actually aged well. I mean, you go into Colorado and you get a split.
It's so hard to pitch there. It's so hard.
Wade Miley got rocked.
You think so? Say you can throw your curveball slider at 100% anywhere else. In Colorado, you can probably throw it 70% of what you can throw it anywhere else. It's so hard to get used to throw that. And I mean, you get the bullpen to do it. You're lucky if you show up to Colorado on Monday and you don't have to pitch until like Wednesday, maybe Thursday, and you get to play with the ball in that air a little bit. But man, if you got that first game, good luck.
Well, and you also have to look at those games too. The first game, the Reds were down 10-0 and scored 8 runs in the 8th to make it interesting. So they were really like never actually in that game. And then in the second game, oh boy, math is hard live. They were down 11-2 and made it, or not 11-2. They were down 8-2 and they ended up losing 9-6. So it's not like those games were necessarily games where like their bullpen got blown up. Just both those games was Castillo and Miley just got lit up. You know, not really much you can do.
Yeah.
One thing we also got to mention the month of May was Joey Votto went on the radio and did play-by-play for the Gutierrez debut in Chicago.
I forgot about that already.
Can't forget about that. That was the coolest 1-0 loss I've ever watched of the Reds.
And also the double play when they won the walk-off double play in Colorado, the first baseman in the 9th inning.
Yeah.
Tucker Barnhart.
Yeah, he was fired up too. He was going nuts.
That was also the game they wore those, you know, because they were doing the military appreciation stuff, which I'm all for. This is not me being anti-American.
Oh boy.
But those hats are terrible. Those camouflage hats are the worst. We got to come up with a new design in MLB.
I like them.
New era. We got to come up with a new design.
I like them.
I mean,
do you like them?
I don't mind them. I'm all for wear 50 different uniforms throughout the year. I want a different uniform every single night. I don't care if they're ugly. I don't care if they're awful. I love anything different, you know.
As long as they're not the sleeveless pinstripes. Blech.
Pinstripes forever.
I like the apologize to those who serve our country on behalf of Tim.
Late Night Red Sox Live supports the military.
I do support the military. I just don't
pray for the troops, Tim. We pray for the troops.
Do you remember, was this the month also I called Carlos's bike because I didn't know about Peloton? I called it Pelotonin.
Tim, are you wearing a camouflage Nike hat?
No, it's gray.
Does it kind of look camouflage to you guys?
Yeah, that's some type of like computer camouflage of some kind.
I mean, if you guys want to throw hands, we can throw hands. You know, that's fine.
Fine for Tim to work out in it, but not for baseball players to wear it.
Well played. Well played. Let's go to June, guys. Let's go to June because June was fun as hell. Even in the losses, they were fun.
15-12.
15-12, a sweep of the Cardinals, two Jesse Winker 3 home run games, including the big 9th inning homer in St. Louis to cap off the 4-game sweep when the Reds were up 7-0 and the Cardinals came back and tied at 7-7. So just kind of like a crazy, another crazy month. They start the month losing by 2 touchdowns to the Phillies. And then, they go sweep St. Louis. They sweep Colorado. They go on that 6-game win streak between Colorado, and they go and sweep the Brewers in Milwaukee. Lucas Sims gets the sweep in the last game. This is the Joey Votto scores from first on the Tucker Barnhart single. And you see the infamous, like him screaming all fired up while Tucker advances to second on the throw. One of my favorite Joey Votto moments of the season. And even like their losses. So they go to San Diego and they're down, 2-0. And they come back and make it 4-2 between Stevenson and India with big hits. And then the bullpen obviously gives up the game. They end up getting swept there, but it was like, okay, I kind of feel all right with this team. They lose to the Twins. And then they get a game against the Twins. They go and take 2 out of 4 from the Braves. They make up a game with the Phillies. And then they end it with losing 2 to the Padres. But a lot better feelings at that point. A lot of really, really fun performances. That 12-4 shellacking of the Phillies with a Nick Castellanos grand slam in that game at home was a joy, especially after I reawoke Freddie Freeman, for those of us who were listening to the show then, and brought him back to life from his MVP caliber season.
Yeah, that was the Jonathan India, Tyler Stevenson month where they kind of both carried the team. India got moved to the leadoff spot and just took it and just absolutely ran with it. Yeah, I thought that Padres series, it's weird. I thought that was an exciting series. I thought that was fun. I thought it was encouraging. It's weird. They got swept in a 4-game series and it felt encouraging in some ways. It's so weird how different you feel at certain points of a baseball season. Because at that point, we're like, man, the Padres are just this juggernaut. They are like, the Reds have competed with them, but the Reds, there's no way they could catch the Padres. But we can outplay the Brewers and Cardinals for sure. It's just went completely two opposite directions. It's so weird. How you feel at certain points. It never ends the same way.
I remember that game against the Phillies. I think it was like 17-2 or something, and just thinking like this is not it this year at all. But as we saw so many times with this team, they just bounced back when everyone tried to write them off until the last month or so, and they just kept fighting back. And how many come from behind wins did they have this year? And how many big moments did they show when everyone was saying, so-and-so can't do this or so-and-so can't do that? And June was the start of kind of like the fun Reds. And I think everyone in the MLB started to catch on by July of just how much like fun this team could be. And everyone started to take notice. I know that there was an article at Just Baseball about how fun the Reds were. And then like right after that, they weren't fun anymore. But June was pretty cool. Tyler Stevenson had a good month, 305, 452, 542. And this was the first month of Luis Castillo pitching well, the 1.71 ERA. And it finally seemed like there was some hope to the starting rotation's ace, and maybe time for him to turn around after all of the takes of how bad the weather was and how he can't pitch in the cold. It took him until June to kind of figure it out.
Was June Kyle Farmer month?
That was July, and I'm ready for it.
Can't wait. I cannot wait.
41 comeback wins this year for the Reds, 34 blown leads. So more good than bad. For comparison, 2013, the Reds only had 25 come from behind wins, and that team won how many games? 90 something. And
hey, Nick, there was one year, and I don't know how quickly you could find this, or even if you care to, but I think the Reds had like 19 walk-off wins or something like that, like 2008-ish or somewhere around there.
2010, that was like their.
I just remember thinking like, I remember an Edwin Encarnacion walk-off home run. It was just like every third night they were walking it off, and the team wasn't even good.
There was all 8 wins of the season were walk-off wins.
Yeah.
I say 2010. That was like their game. That was their jam. Was walk-offs. Yeah. Other fun highlights from June that we can discuss. Abigail, the infamous fan in San Diego that when Joey was ejected, he signed a ball to and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't play the whole game," and then brought her back the next day. That was a cool moment.
Luis Castillo,
like Clay mentioned,
1.71 ERA that month. He entered it was like 7.2 or something. That was where it really.
Is there an echo in the room?
Nick, I literally just said that.
Oh, sorry. I was looking up your stat.
That's a good point.
Luis Castillo should be mentioned twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed. And then we get to July, which starts with the walk-off against the Padres that Tyler Stevenson gets a walk-off single where was it Castellanos was walked in front of him to get to Stevenson, and Joey said, like, you need to make them pay. Something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
And he's like, yeah, and then they go and they sweep the Cubs. They take 2 out of 3 from the Royals, take 3 out of 4 from the Brewers, and they go into the All-Star break. And then we don't have to talk about what happened. Actually, we do have to talk about what happened when they came back from the All-Star break. But it was really awesome going into the All-Star break when Castellanos and Winker started in the All-Star team.
Yeah, I mean, they still went 16-10 that month. I mean, that's a 615 win percentage. Strangely enough, the run differential was 0 They went 16-10 and 121-121. Which in the month of September, it was, the opposite where I think the Reds, did they have a positive? Or did they blow it at the end?
I think they did.
It was 116-119. So they were only -3 and they were 4 games under 500, which usually if you're -3, you should be, really close, maybe 1 game below 500. But yeah, everything went right that month. Everything went right. That that Padres win, that felt like the turning point, where it really turned in the right direction, and it carried into September. That was really just where the season completely flipped for the Reds.
Yeah, it felt like this was kind of the month where for a brief moment in time, you kind of believed that this team could be something special and have a magical run towards the end. You had Votto going off as well. He hit 11 home runs in the month.
We're still pre-All-Star break, Clay. We're getting there.
Oh, sorry.
You guys need to pay attention to what's going on here.
I was setting it up. I had a big segue.
Go ahead, and I'll come back at the end of the month.
I mean, if you guys would like to listen while we're talking, that'd be cool.
Carlos, the listener.
So they come out of the All-Star break. Nick Castellanos gets hurt. They lose. They get swept by the Brewers. Meh. And then they go and they lose to the Mets 2 out of 3. Take 2 out of 3 from the Cardinals. Also, that Saturday starts the homer streak for Joey Votto, as Clay was mentioning. Also, my birthday. Not saying it started because I was at the game on my birthday, but weird coincidence, right, guys? And yeah. And then Joey goes on to hit homers in 7 straight games, including two homer games at Wrigley Field, our favorite place to see him hit bombs besides Great American Ballpark, of course. At this point, the Cubs start selling everyone away, and July ended up being fun. So now, Clay, you can talk about Joey Votto's home run streak.
Yeah, well, that's really all I had to say. But I was going to say this was the moment that the Reds, for me, felt like this team could be something special. And they were having a lot of fun. The rookies were playing well. Everyone was playing well. Castillo had another good month, 2.15 ERA. Things started to gel. And this was when the video of Liam and Jesse Winker singing Blink 182 and them kind of dancing. I mean, this team was just so much fun. They had personality. And I myself was so excited thinking, this is going to be a playoff team. We're going to have something here in Cincinnati. And of course, we haven't really talked about Kyle Farmer enough, right? If you all don't know who Kyle Farmer is, he's the Reds utility man and bench bat. And he had a humongous, should be the Reds utility man and bench bat. And he just had a huge month of July, 395, 456, 691 with 5 home runs. And it inflated everyone's idea of what Kyle Farmer is. And to this day, we are all still kind of fighting what he should be.
Had to go there.
That's false news by Clay there, so don't take that to heart, Reds fans out there. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Don't blame him.
Anyway, so that that last week of July, I thought was one of the most exciting weeks ever of Reds baseball in the regular season. Good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between. Every single day, there was something massive that happened. The Reds were must-see TV. Start off Monday, the Baez walk-off off Garrett. The Cubs are selling off.
That ended Garrett's career, by the way.
Wow. Okay.
Write that down.
Okay, we're ending careers on the show.
And Clay's leaving.
Baez did it.
So that happens on Monday. The Cubs are selling off their team. The Reds go on a 4-game win streak. They out of nowhere at like midnight announced they traded for Luis Cessa. No one expected that. And then 12 hours later, they trade for Givens, and everyone's like, what's going on here? They get to the trade deadline. Everyone's like, well, maybe they're going to add something else. Who knows? And they didn't, but it was still just riveting. And Joey's streak's going on. They go into New York. They win a thrilling game on Friday. Joey, that's the last game of the streak. They lose the game on Saturday on the Doolittle allows a walk-off, but Votto missed the home run by a foot.
That close. Yeah.
And it was just one of the most insane weeks of Reds baseball. Just that is what, if you're a fan of the team, that's what you sign up for. It's the interesting storylines. It's the constantly just thinking about what this team can be with, it was an awesome week.
So you brought up, I want to make mention for the other guys chime in on this real quick. So you bring up like the shocking trade for Luis Sessa. I remember really well listening to New York that week, John Jastremski's podcast. I don't really care for New York teams, but I think they're fascinating because their fans are psychopaths. So I'm listening to his pod and he's talking about the Yankees had like some crazy win that day that they really needed. Because remember the Yankees had a stretch there where I was like, are they ever going to lose again? And he's like doing his pod, like, and like he kind of records it like a radio show. And he comes back, he takes a break, like where they like have the sponsorships. He comes back, he's like, I was just informed the Yankees traded Luis Sessa and Justin Wilson to the Cincinnati Reds. And he's like, and Luis Sessa's pitching really well, so I don't know what's going on. And it's like, I'm sitting there like, oh shit, maybe we got this guy here. And like, Sessa obviously ends up being really awesome down the stretch for the Reds. So that was pretty fascinating. When you hear like guys getting traded from other teams to your team and that team's pissed, it's a pretty nice feeling.
Yeah, I was actually on a work trip, so I had bad hotel Wi-Fi, and it's like around the deadline the whole week I was out there, and I remember like going to McDonald's to get on their Wi-Fi. I saw the trade. I start searching his name because I'm like, Luis Sessa, like, I don't know who that is.
He wore 85. You're like, what the hell is this?
Every single person that's a Yankees fan was pissed. And it wasn't just pissed like, oh, this is a bad trade. They were pissed because he'd been on the roster for a couple of years on and off and was terrible. And they held on to him all this time until he started to pitch well, and then they dumped him. It was just like classic New York fans just wanting to ride in the streets over Luis Sessa.
Yeah, I mean, it was a numbers thing so they could get Gallo and Rizzo, but still, it was a great trade for the Reds. It worked out. I'm already looking forward to trade deadline 2022. The Reds aren't going to do anything. They never do anything. And then like, okay, the year before they got Archie Bradley and Brian Goodwin, and they got two relievers that no one said they'd get. I'm already looking forward to 2022. Reds never do anything at the deadline, and then they make a couple trades.
Delino DeShields is this year's Brian Goodwin.
We're not to September yet, Clay.
Yeah. Well. Oh yeah, I guess he was acquired after the deadline, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was acquired when the rosters expanded.
Yeah, I think he was actually traded to Boston at the deadline.
Oh, Reds got him on August 31st, so he would have been playoff eligible.
But remember, yeah, they traded him to August 31st. And they sent him to Louisville, and then the next day added him to the 40-man roster.
Yep. Yeah, he was acquired. He was playoff eligible. Should be playing right now. For Delino. That was his chance.
He didn't suck.
He played really well. I don't know how, but he played really well.
He did. Yeah.
Good for Delino.
All right, so we go to August, and they start with a nice win against the Mets. Split a series with the Twins, sweep the Pirates, lose the 1-game makeup to the Indians. What was it? They lose 2 of 3 to the Braves, take 2 of 3 from the Phillies, come home, and that's when they had the series lost to the Cubs. Sweep the Marlins, lose 2 out of 3 to the Brewers, beat the Marlins, and then the losing streak starts. The downfall of the season begins.
Yeah, so 16-12 for the month. I know the month did end well, but run differential wise, this was by far their best month. They were plus 40 for the month. And remember, I said the month before when they were 16-10, it was a 0. So overall, they probably played their best month. But yeah, losing Winker, that's what I don't know if that was the death blow to the team, but that was definitely the biggest contributing factor.
So weird because everybody like just stopped hitting for a while. Like, because I remember saying specifically, I was like, them losing Winker's not that big of a deal because them scoring runs is not an issue. And then from then on, they could not score runs or timely runs.
honestly, though, if you look at the September numbers, they hit better than like you think. Like there's like 6 guys that had really high like weighted runs created plus. It's just the Winker was the big anchor in the middle, I think. And there's just so many things that just it didn't, go right. And then,
But how did Joey and Nick hit at that time? Not very well, right?
So, I mean, we're crossing into August and September. Both were fine, but I mean, like September, Votto 163 WRC plus, Suarez 220, Castellanos 136.
No, not September. I'm talking about August.
August was even better. Remember, August was their best month run differential wise. August, Naquin was 207, Winker was 239, India was 112, Votto was 122, Stevenson 136, Castellanos 114. I mean, I'm sure if you broke it down by like the third week of August into maybe like the first week of September, you could probably find like a stretch where it was really bad, but it was never as bad as it felt.
August had their lowest average 241 and lowest on base percentage 316, and somehow they had that incredible month where they had 16 and 12 with those type of stats. India had 7 home runs, I believe, in August. That was just like incredible, and that's when he really started pulling away with that rookie of the year votes. And Tyler Naquin, who started off incredibly hot at the beginning of the year, didn't do much, came back 386, 457, 735, 6 home runs. And I think another thing that helped them win was the back of the rotation. Vlad was good. He had 6 starts at a 2.80 ERA. I mean, he had his best month by far, and he helped the Reds pick up a few extra wins.
There was a stretch I remember we were talking about on the show. We might have had a guest that week that we were talking about it. I can't necessarily remember. And I brought up how Jonathan India was still like at that point was still 4th in betting odds for National Rookie of the Year. At the point, Trevor Rogers was still pitching, so I understood that one. But he was behind like Dylan Carlson and Brian Hayes. And I was like, what the hell is this?
August was also the first time I came on the show, which was a walk-off home run to the Braves.
Yep.
Which was similar to the second time I came on the show, and there was also a walk-off home run. Tonight, there will not be – well, I mean, maybe in this Dodgers
1-1
Cardinals game, it's 1-1. Maybe there'll be a walk-off home run tonight. If so, I'm never coming on the show again.
But if it's a walk-off, it's in Dodger Stadium, so then the Cardinals would lose, Clay.
I don't really want anyone to win this game somehow.
I'm with you. Believe me. I'm totally with you. All right.
So I broke it down by like when the losing skid kind of started. So August 24th to the end of the year. And the top guys all hit well. Suarez, Castellanos, Votto, India all hit well. Farmer and Stevenson were fine. They weren't, great, weren't terrible. The issue was, and this is where I think Winker really killed them, because he would have brought some of the really bad performers up, and some of these other guys wouldn't have got as many, at bats or whatever. But Schrock, Aquino, Moustakas, Barnhart, Barrero, they were all just awful. I mean, none of them had produced anything. And so it wasn't necessarily that the top guys weren't producing, because they were. It was just, the other guys, man, the guys that struggled, they really struggled. And, and that's when you have a lineup that's not very long, when it's only, a couple guys are your producers, it's just, you're going to struggle to score runs.
Yeah, I agree. So that leads us to the brutality of September, starting with the Cardinals loss. The Tigers coming here and won 2 out of 3, which we told everybody that week. We said this Tigers team is a lot better than their record shows, and they were.
I think Clay was really on the Tigers.
I had loved the Tigers and the Mariners all year, and one turned out to look pretty good. The other just, I mean, they have such a good manager, a good pitching coach. I mean, this is on Tigers podcast, but I could go on and on. I'm a Tigers fan, guys. There it is. I said it.
Wow.
What night
Like
was it in the
so many teams?
Yeah.
Tighten
Wait
it up.
until Carlos
Snowden.
Correa is a
Tighten it
Tiger.
up, Snowden. You like 7 teams.
Oh, I like more than 7 teams.
Don't you root for 2?
No, I actually only root for 1. So here's my whole thing. I am a
No, I was talking to
fan of-
Carlos.
I have emotional attachment to one. I do enjoy watching other teams, but I don't have any loyalty. So, like in 4 years, if the Mariners suck, which they won't, I won't watch Mariners games like I do now. I don't care. But right now, it's good entertainment. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if the Diamondbacks, who I don't watch hardly at all, are good in 5 years, I'll watch them. But if they lose, I don't have any emotional attachment.
Fair
fair.
enough.
You know what I mean?
I have
Fair
NBA
enough.
teams like that. I get it.
Still don't
so.
like it.
Yeah. I enjoy watching certain teams because I like the game.
Yeah, I think I
What-
randomly pick like college basketball teams that I'm like kind of have an affinity to every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
We're not talking about college basketball on this podcast. We're above
coming.
that.
It's coming, baby.
Yeah, we are.
We are above
Coming.
that.
I wish I could say the same, but my life consists around it and between the fall and winter. So,
Quick
yeah. So
question, Tim, not to get off topic. Is that something new behind you? Is that a new shelf?
yes,
was that
it
there?
is because I was told once that it looked like I was sitting on the toilet when recording podcasts.
Our friend Mo.
So my wife and I, right after that, went to Home Depot and picked up shelving where I could put like my favorite baseball cards up. And she was like, "Hey, you have this box of old signed baseballs. Do you want to have it displayed?"
Nice.
There's
We
a
gotta
signed Joey ball back here somewhere. They're right here. Here's a signed. That's the Joey Votto ball I told you guys about that he threw to me at Wrigley and I dropped it in 2011.
We have to have a guest. We got to tell them ahead of
I
time
got
to
it.
ask Tim, hey, those are a lot of cool baseballs you got in your bathroom. We got to have someone come on and give it to you.
That'd be awesome,
Tim,
actually.
Tim paid me to ask him about it. He really just wanted to find a way to talk about it.
I am glad you brought it up, Clay. Thank you. Because we-
$5.
We have like some of our fans on the show, like some of our listeners, they bust my chops about it, and they're
have
like,
fans?
it makes me laugh. So, yeah, man, we're big
Fans?
deals now. Yeah. Can we talk about September? I know we don't want to, but let's just kind of get it out of the way.
Another Kyle Farmer month. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Who?
What night was in the Tiger series that Casey Mize pitched? Was it Friday or was it Sunday? I know it was a game they lost.
It was a Sunday.
That's right. Because he only threw like 4 innings, I think,
He
but he was
threw-
pretty damn good.
I was playing him in fantasy and I was terrified because he had like a perfect game going, and then they pulled him and I won that week because of it.
Yeah. I love Casey Mize. I'm a big fan.
Me too,
I won't
yeah.
lie to you. So,
Tigers got
so they lose 2 out of 3 to the Cubs. Then the freaking Cardinals, Pirates, Dodgers fiasco starts before they win a series again against the Nationals. And I go to the last home game of the year where they score 13 runs against the Pirates and Joey Votto hits a 468-foot home run. And then they get eliminated by the White Sox and lose 2 out of 3 of the Pirates in the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to really look at the Brewers and the Cardinals and what they did this year. I mean, everyone all offseason, this division is garbage. This division is terrible. This is the worst division in baseball. And
Then 3
the
teams are super
Brewers win
competitive.
95 games. Cardinals win 90 games, and the Reds still finished with the 6th best record in the National League. Like, it wasn't that bad of a division. And you look at run differential, Reds were plus 26, Cardinals were plus 34. Look, they went on this crazy streak. The Reds played bad, but it really wouldn't have mattered. You know, the Reds were never at any point in the season projected to go above 88 wins, and the Cardinals won 90. So, I mean, I don't know if you can really be too upset about, the Reds. It's really just more about the stupid Cardinals.
I think that what really happened is fans were upset. The team wasn't playing as well, and it just started to snowball, and pile up. And it really just led to a bunch of frustration. There were some lineups that were not, I wouldn't say questionable, but a little obscure. When you lose 5 in 1 month to the Pirates, I don't care if you're in it or not. Everyone made fun of the Pirates all year, all last off season, and then you lose 5 to them. It's just tough. And I think the fans are really starting to pile on, and we saw that on Twitter and whatnot. It was just a terrible end of the year that just left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. And the reason why it did, though, was because they played well enough to give everyone hope and optimism. And that's why everyone was so upset. They still played better than what they were projected to do. If this was spread out a little bit, I don't think it would have the same effect. But people bought in, thought that they could make the playoffs, and it went south. I still think that they played about what they were expected to this year, a few games above. There's plenty of hope for the future just look at the rookies this year and how well they did and kind of where they are now. I would say most rookies on this team, from what I personally thought they'd be, have all taken a small step above. Barrero is the only one that I'm not ready to say that about. Vlad, I thought he would be fifth, sixth type starter. I think he could easily be a back end of the rotation guy. Stevenson, the ceiling is the limit with him, and same with India. I listened to Rates and Barrels podcast, and they were talking about India fantasy value-wise being near Acuna. That's how good he's going to be in terms of value and overall production, which I was like, there's no way. Then they spent 5 minutes talking about it, and by the end of the day, I was like, I'm drafting Jonathan India 1 overall. Like, screw it.
Got him in a dynasty league, man. Held on to this long, so
I've got India too. I think everything went right for the Reds this year that needed to go right, except for the Brewers and Cardinals, right?
Jerks.
Like, I think everything went about the Reds' way. They had enough players outproduced to even outweigh some of the non-producers, but it's just those two teams played better than their projections, and really, that's the difference. I think in being in the race the last week or not, because the Reds won 83, but if the Reds would have been still in the race, the Reds gave away the Riley O'Brien game. They just straight handed that game to the White Sox. And those games, those last 2 games that they lost against the Pirates, if they're still in it, it's much different. Who knows if the outcome changes or not, but it's different. So, all year, I think the target was, hey, get to 85, give yourself a chance. They did. And they gave themselves a chance. It just didn't work out because of, the way that the Cardinals and Brewers played all year.
And I did attend that Saturday Pirates-Reds game because 3 months ago or 2 months ago, Nick tweeted at me saying, you should go to Pittsburgh. It's awesome. By the way, they play the last weekend of the year there. There's going to be something on the line. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, cool. I'll buy tickets and a hotel and watch 2 teams out of it. At least I got to see O'Neal Cruz.
Oh, yeah.
Is that ballpark not spectacular?
It really is.
Okay. I'm so sorry, Clay. I'm so sorry you suffered so much.
The sun shines over one spot in Pittsburgh, and it's that ballpark.
I went to 8 ballparks this year, and I'm pretty sure PNC is. It's up there. Kaufman's up there as well, but Great American has to be in this conversation. Everywhere I go,
I was gonna say,
I want to convince myself Great American isn't that great. I'm a homer. And then I think, oh, wow, well, Great American has this that they don't that I like better. It's a personal opinion, but I think Great American's underrated.
It's pretty great. But I'm also never going to go on a podcast and say anything nice about the shitty city of Pittsburgh. So
I hate that city.
I think it's a really nice city. I don't like it. I don't like the teams, but I think it's a really nice city. When I went for the first time, I was like, my whole life, this town's been like dumped on, and these bridges are actually like really nice, and like walking to the stadium's really nice, and like the view's great. And
you can go to Ashland, Kentucky if you want to see a bridge.
Yeah,
come on.
There's a reason that The Dark Knight Rises chose Pittsburgh to be Gotham City when it was getting blown up in that movie.
That's probably the best point anyone's made all night.
That's gonna make the highlight for the show.
Yeah. If you haven't seen Dark Knight Rises, I'm sorry to spoil a movie that's 10 years old for you, but
I never knew that.
All righty.
Get that
So
off my list.
yeah. But let's go ahead and go around. Let's kind of discuss the position groups now that we've kind of gone
Are
through
we not doing October? Or was that the October segment?
September, October were combined.
I do want to add one thing because I did this research today because I figured you all would enjoy it. It will take 1 second. Longest game of the year. 5 hours, 14 minutes, June 1st at Minnesota, loss. Shortest 9-inning game of the year, Wade Miley, of course, W, August 27th at Miami, 2 hours, 28 minutes.
That Twins game was brutal.
Yeah, I
Brutal.
Oh, man.
I woke up to about 60 text messages from Carlos and Nick that night.
I was in such a bad mood. Oh, man. Oh, it was painful.
My wife was like, "Why is your phone going so crazy right now?" And I was like, "The Reds must have lost because I fell asleep."
Didn't Miguel send it like he only needed like a sac fly and he hit a ball like 3 miles?
Yeah. I think he might have hit the target sign at the stadium.
And I think he had like 2 hits all year. Like he was benched. Like, oh man, that game.
Yeah. So obviously now the big question is, how does this team move forward, and what do we look like in position groups? The outfield, obviously the big question we obviously know is, will Shogo Akiyama be back next year? That's the thing we're all wondering, obviously. Not anything else to go on with the team. Right?
Right.
Yeah. But all joking aside, so obviously the Nick Castellanos question hangs over. And I know we've been discussing this a lot, and we're going to discuss it until we know what's going to happen. And I'm not necessarily talking myself into him staying because I do think he's going to opt out. Obviously, it just makes all the sense in the world with who his manager, who his agent is, and obviously the fact he's probably going to be the best available free agent in baseball. But I thought about it more and more, and I was like, he's probably, I do 100% still believe he opts out, but I do think there's this little chance Nick Castellanos signs back. And strictly, I think it's because of all the CBA stuff going on next year and no one knows what's going on. I think that uncertainty could play in the Reds' favor. So the outfield group, Winker, cool. Naquin, cool. He's going to get a nice raise. I know, Clay, I saw you kind of audition, booming the TJ Friedel drum that he should be on the Major League roster for next year. So what do you guys think about the outfield group?
Yeah, so I liked TJ a lot. I didn't really think of much about him until I was at the alt site this year, right after spring training. I saw him and I thought, I don't know, his swing looks good. He's extremely patient at the plate, and he takes a lot of pitches. And I was just thinking, like, that is something that a lot of managers will like, regardless of how phenomenal you are. If you can get on base, you can stick in the league for a while. And he had a really good year at AAA. He wasn't outstanding. The Bats announced today he was like their player of the year or whatever. And he got called up and it played well. I mean, he can play all the outfield positions. He had one disastrous game in center defensively. He is like the perfect person to replace what has been the Shogo role or the Mark Payton role. I mean, just think of how much better he is than just those two players. That's an immediate upgrade if you have him as your fourth or kind of fifth in between up and down type guy. I think he's better than both of those players. And just to touch on some of the other outfielders, Winker, we all know his story. I am a little concerned, though, doesn't hit lefties. And, everyone likes to make fun of Nick Senzel getting injured all the time. Jesse Winker gets injured a lot. Not as, if Nick Senzel was hitting as good as Jesse Winker, people wouldn't talk about it nearly as much. But Jesse Winker is definitely somebody who has always kind of dealt with some injuries. Tyler Naquin had 2 awesome months, kind of streaky in between. Still a good player, somebody who you could definitely platoon if you want to do that in center field. Castellanos, I personally think, is going to walk, and I know that you all will touch on that more. And then Nick's guy, Aquino, I'm just so ready to move on. I mean, he definitely looked better in moments this year, but I just don't see how you want to contend and you want to keep a guy who, I mean, I know he had one monstrous month, but he's just been a negative WAR player last year, this year. I'm just ready to move on. If he explodes somewhere else, good for him, but it's just not worth it to me anymore to keep the roster spot and keep giving at bats to him.
Yeah, I mean, he did have the 5th highest OPS on the team against left-handed pitching. So, I mean,
And how many at bats?
like 80, something like that. I mean, he was only supposed to be a platoon player, but I mean, the bigger story is Winker hasn't played more than 113 games in his career. I mean, what do we expect out of him? I mean, is that his ceiling? Is he ever going to play more than 120? I just, and man, he is maybe one of the top 5 hitters in baseball against right-handed pitching. I mean, he's up there. But he's really bad against left-handed pitching. Like, it's not even like, just, oh, this guy's not as good. I mean, he is replacement level hitter against left-handed pitching. I don't know if I've ever seen a player with that drastic of splits. And even during his best year, his career year, it was that drastic. This was his best season. So I don't know. And Winker and Castellanos both in the outfield together. It's great in the lineup. Them hitting back to back in the order. It's great. They complement each other flawlessly with the right and the left combination. They force an opponent's bullpen to put in one or the other hand wise, and the other one mashes it. So, but defensively, it's that's the silent killer for the Reds this season. Is you look at the Cardinals, they were like the top defense of baseball. The Reds were one of the worst, and you see who's playing right now and who isn't. So I think that had a big part of it. So I mean, I think Naquin's definitely a fine player to platoon. It's just, it's the Reds need to be looking more for that Giants mold. And I'm fine moving on for Aquino, but you better have another guy that hits left-handed pitching really well to fill his spot. Because if the Reds just roll out, Naquin and Winker, they're going to have the same struggles against left-handed pitching all year again next year.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be tough to keep Naquin as a platoon guy unless they bring somebody in the right field that can't hit right-handed hitters very well, because center field, I don't think that's going to be the spot, because who else is he going to platoon with? You're going to bring in, Delino Shields back, someone like that. I mean, I think there's probably a more realistic chance of Jose Barrero being the center fielder than the shortstop next year to start off the season. But I mean, that's going to take a lot of playing time for him this offseason in winter ball, doing that, and a lot of spring training games. But I just, you can't split time between like a Barrero and Naquin, because number one, Barrero needs to get ABs. He's a young guy. He needs to get that opportunity. And then Naquin, he's a veteran guy that hits really well. And if you start him during the game and you take him out in the 4th or 5th inning, that's going to really piss him off. And that's not good. Like, as much as people don't want to hear about the clubhouse, that kind of shit matters when an old veteran guy is pissed off.
Naquin was brought in.
Another thing about that is just the defense. I wrote an article now 2 years ago about how the Reds were sacrificing defense in terms of offense, and everyone was saying strikeouts are so high, defense matters less than ever. Well, look at the Mariners, also a good defensive team who, made a good run. I mean, it's not impossible to think, oh man, maybe we should have some players who can actually, save us some runs here and there, especially when the bullpen was how it was from, a big chunk of the year. I think center field has to be addressed externally. I don't think, and if you're going to have Winker in left field and somebody who is, I mean, in my opinion, there's not a current player on the roster that's, a plus defender in the outfield that would play right field. So if you're going to have 2 average to well below average players on either side, then you have got to find somebody in center field. And that's where I said it last time I was on. My number one priority for the offseason is getting a legit center fielder out there. I mean, the defense in terms of players that were qualified for OAA, outs above average, I think Farmer was the only one with a positive. I think Votto had a 0. Tucker wasn't on the list. I don't know if they don't have catchers on that. Nick would probably know more than me. It's just something I glanced at.
They don't do outs above average for catchers.
Yeah, so something I glanced at today. The Reds had 1, Kyle Farmer, and Votto was a 0. The next highest player was -4. I mean, this team just isn't so bad defensively. I just think it needs to be more of a priority. Defense does not slump like offense slumps. And sometimes you need to lean back and rely on your defense.
So my general question before we go around the horn with the infield. Will Andrew McCutchen play left field or right field for the Reds next year?
I don't want to see it.
No joke. He's on my list of players to go after. He is one of the best hitters in baseball against left-handed pitching. He can't hit right-handed pitching, but he's a Keno on crack.
His defensive WAR was -13 according to Fangraphs.
Well, he played every day. I mean, if he's platooning, he's not playing every day.
Yeah, he'd be at -10. Come on, we'll take it.
He'd only be playing a couple times a week. I don't think he's any worse than Winker, and especially
I'm not necessarily one that wants him. And I am a fan of platooning. Don't get me wrong when I say this. And Nick and I talk constantly throughout the week about every single player you could ever imagine and how they could platoon. I guess this is more of, if it's okay if I ask a question to Carlos. Clubhouse, I know you know more than anybody about it. What does platooning do? I mean, I understand you want to platoon 1 or 2 positions, but Nick and I have these crazy ideas of like more than half the positions being platooned. Is that something that, okay, maybe players start playing worse now because they're not playing frequently, or, you know, I just want to know your thoughts on kind of having several platoon players.
It's all of that. It's like, yeah, you don't play as well because you're not playing every day. And it depends how long you've been in the league to where you feel pissed off. And, you know, if you're a veteran guy, then it's like, it's okay to be pissed off and mad about it, you know, almost in the clubhouse. But if you're a rookie, then you're just kind of like, or the first 3 years of your contract, you're like, well, if you don't like it, play better type of deal. So I think it goes better if you're younger, but if you're older and you're hitting well, say like an Naquin, like he's a perfect example. Like he does, you know, he was playing really, really well. And then against left-handed guys, like, I don't know. I mean, the guys that you're putting in there aren't really like crushing left-handed pitching. You know, like the Lionel Shields Jr. wasn't out there crushing. Aquino, you know, he had his little stretches, but it wasn't like anything that like blew your mind or anything like that. So it's pretty tricky. And for the most part, you don't want to have to do that platooning, because then that hurts you in free agency as well. Like, who's going to want to come over?
Yeah.
You know, like you might be a, you know, just say an average player in the outfield, and you can probably go start every day in Arizona, or you could come to Cincinnati and probably play half the amount of games. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
To me, it has a lot to do also with just like, oftentimes you see platoon players being league average players, or actually maybe even slightly below league average, and they're just trying to produce, right? And then you see players maybe at the very end of their career that know, you know, like a Ryan Zimmerman type, who's kind of, you know, knows he's on his way out. But it is, the free agency thing is unique. And I'm not saying there's not teams that sign platoon players that,
Sure,
you know, get massive contracts. It happens. I'm thinking of Cincinnati. Would you want to, I mean, if you're going to be platooned, you got to think about your next contract, right? You have X amount of years in the league. I don't see anybody in their prime coming to be a platoon player. So now you're getting maybe a vet on his way out last couple of years. And those players, you never know how quickly they can fall off. Tommy Pham, I mean, what if he was a Red this year? He fell off, you know, terribly, even though he is somebody Nick and I talked about the Reds potentially looking at. But So yeah, I was just curious to hear your opinion on it.
Well, a lot of the issue was the players that the Reds had platooning. It wasn't, both things can be true. The players the Reds brought in to be platoons weren't good enough, and the players that the Reds platooned weren't good enough to not be platooned. I think both are probably true. I look at the Giants, man. They won 107 games. They have Brandon Belt, a guy with a 160 OPS plus platooning this year, who's a veteran player. We're big David Bell fans, but maybe he's not selling it good enough to the players. If that's an issue, I'm not even saying that is an issue, but
Brandon Belt isn't a Joey Votto. You can't platoon Joey Votto right now.
Brandon Belt's a pretty established player. I mean, who had a monster season.
Brandon Belt's a good player.
Yeah,
he's not anywhere near the same stratosphere as Joey.
Sure,
not even close.
Brandon Belt's not going to be in the Hall of Fame, but they did sell. I don't know. Maybe there's a solution if there's a designated hitter where maybe the plan is, okay, hey, we're going to every time we face a left-handed pitcher, Winker's going to play day one. Votto's going to play day two against, and we're going to rotate it. So maybe there's not both of those guys in the lineup who struggle against left-handed pitching. And I don't think Votto is actually as terrible as some of the years previously against lefty pitching. He was still below average, but maybe do that. I think the Red Sox do that with Verdugo and Schwarber. If you look back through them, I think they every other left-handed pitcher, they just rotate. So they're still, playing. They're not sitting every single game against a lefty, but you're not having two bats that, are just, are not above average hitters against left-handed pitching.
And I don't think hardly anyone who's listening to this stream or will listen will be able to name Lamont Wade Jr. and Darren Ruff. Like, these are guys who, Darren Ruff's some old dude who came over from Japan after a failed stint with the Phillies. Like, these are guys that are kind of like what I'm talking about, kind of almost random players, and they're just having incredible years. Now, more power to the Giants and Gabe Kapler, who has been incredible. Gabe Kapler, I was thinking about today when I was thinking of David Bell. His first kind of shot he got with the Phillies, he had a really good roster. It was kind of put together in a strange way, a lot of free agents, and they ran him out of town, and he was horrible. And everyone thought, oh, this guy can't manage. Well, you got him on a team with some pieces that worked for him, and now he may win the manager of the year. Like, that's one of those things, everyone thinks it's David Bell's fault. And I know that we've talked about this. It's not always the case.
Do you imagine we knew at the All-Star break, probably even before the year, how bad Winker was versus the lefty. Do you imagine if they started platooning the starting left fielder for the National League All-Star game, how bad that would look? That would be awful for the Reds. For free agents, that would be so bad. That's probably the worst case scenario for free agents to try to come to Cincinnati. Oh, you want to start the All-Star game? Cool. We're still going to give you 50% of the ABs.
The Rays are a big component of it. Now,
the Rays are not good for baseball.
Different everything than baseball. I know you hate them.
I don't hate them. I love the players, but it's a bad product for baseball as a player.
I mean, yeah, it is, honestly.
I get that people are against platoon. I get the negative things it can have, but if we want to fix the issue, I don't see another
It'll never
solution.
be a computer game, Nick. It's never going to be a computer game.
Yeah, but the Reds have to improve against left-handed
make it clear,
pitching.
I'm not against platooning. I was just curious about inside a clubhouse.
Yeah, it just depends on your time and what's going on. Like, if Winker wasn't as good as he was, and then you platoon him, then that's okay. But whenever he makes the All-Star team as a starter, that's out the window. It can't happen.
All right. That was very good discussion. I had nothing to add to it. Let's kind of go real quick around the horn. Starting at third base, obviously this year between Suarez and Moose, definitely a down, brutal, miserable, frustrating year. But Suarez obviously had a really awesome September. Moose looked like he gained 10 pounds through the season. obviously was not his year, and he, said that he was still injured when he came off the IL. We all saw. I don't know what this looks like next year. I imagine, you got to think Suarez is obviously the guy moving forward, but I don't know, man. I don't feel the most confident in the hot corner for the Reds next year.
Stockers only played 62 games. Man,
he's making $18 million next year and $20 million the year after.
He's ruining my dream of the Seager brothers on the left side of the infield for the Reds next year. He's just ruining it.
You want to go get Kyle Seager? He'll be available. They're not going to accept that $20 million club.
No way they do. No way they do.
No, I think Gino will be penciled in day one, get the majority of the starts. Moose better hope there's a DH next year, or it's going to be a rough year for him.
I think the Reds are going to try to move Moustakas. I don't know if they'll be able to.
Try being the key word. Yeah.
It seems like the most positive outcome for everyone. And then, man, you just got to hope, Suarez has figured it out. I tweeted out on I think on Sunday on the last day, April was really, really bad. It was just awful, everything about it. But I think if you dig a little bit closer at the numbers, I think May through August, he was at least a little closer to average. If you kind of, look at some of the StatCast numbers and some of the other numbers. And then, of course, in September, he was the best hitter on the planet. So I don't think he was as bad as he was. I don't think he was as good as he was in September. At least there's maybe some light there. But again, if the Reds address some of the other needs that they have, if Suarez is, maybe slightly below average, it's not that big of a deal. If he's, batting 7th or 8th in the lineup, it's going to be the other spots, I think. And I think defensively, he looked a little more comfortable at third base kind of as the year went on.
Yeah, I think the Reds have a massive issue right now at third base. And the reason why is because they have, $30 million tied up to two players that were both below average this year. That's an issue. No matter how you paint it, if you have $30 million tied up at one position for two underperforming players, that's a big issue. I know we've talked, Nick, about salary dump. Tim probably, being the NBA guy, sees this happens a lot in hockey, where you find a team that is just trying to, in this case, the other professional sports have a salary cap and floor, which could be coming to the MLB. They want to meet that salary floor. So they take on your crappy contract and you attach in a prospect, and they're buying a prospect more or less. You could do it in baseball. You don't see it as much, especially with a contract like that. If they could find a way to move Moustakas, they absolutely have to. Even if it costs them. Now, they don't have enough of a deep enough pool to give up one of their top prospects. So if you're talking about a guy in the, 12 to 20 range, just depending on which specific guy, especially if it's a pitcher, I was thinking about like Baltimore has literally nothing at third base and nothing in the minor leagues. Jordan Westburg may move there, but Baltimore is struggling at third base. Why don't they take that on? They have no pitching and they need pitching prospects. Throw in somebody, you could go through who and move Moose. It's not likely, but it's not impossible. Suarez, I think the issue is simply expectations. 2019 was a monstrous year, and it set everyone's expectations above what I think they should have been. I didn't think he'd be able to repeat that, especially after he had that shoulder injury. 2020 was a struggle for multiple reasons. And then this year was just rough until September, and he just mashed in September. The game I was at in Pittsburgh, he hit a ball to deep center. I'm sure you all saw it. That landed like in the Pirates' tee of their boxwood. Like, it was a bomb. If he can bounce back, even like Nick said, if you just throw him at the bottom of the lineup, he's hitting 25 to 32 home runs, striking out a bunch, just it is what it is. but you cannot, I think, go into the year with both of those contracts. You got to find a way. If you want to improve this team, you have to find a way to make them better without adding payroll, because I don't think the Reds are going to be adding payroll. You have to get creative, maybe make a risky trade, try to get off some salaries. So it's definitely going to be interesting going forward to see kind of how they handle that, because I personally think Moose's career, I don't think he'll bounce back.
I'm with you. All right. Middle of the infield, we can go and combine these because we already know what second base is going to be for at least 5 more years, hopefully longer.
Yeah.
Jonathan India, National League Rookie of the Year. I think he's going to get better with the glove. I know he made some flashy plays where they were really impressive athletically, but you can still definitely tell he's getting more and more comfortable as the season went on. He got more comfortable at second base, still learning how to be a consistent second baseman. So I think he's going to get better with that as his career goes on. Love him as our leadoff hitter. Hopefully he's a leadoff hitter for the next 12, 15 years. He seems to really love this team. He seems to really love the organization. I will use that to be positive. But shortstop, obviously, Jose Barrero, Kyle Farmer. It's a conversation that's been all over Twitter for, I don't know, the whole season, it feels like at times. Potential shortstops out there who are free agents. I don't, could go with Clay's point. I don't think they're adding payroll, but Marcus Semien will be back a free agent again. Guys like that. I don't think they'll be Reds, but just worth noting. So what do you guys expect from the shortstop second baseman duo for next season?
I would think India. I mean, I think it's definitely possible he has a little bit of a sophomore slump. So, I mean, I think you got to at least have that as a possibility as you're kind of looking at this team. I agree. I think he'll probably improve defensively, probably starting next year, kind of working more, having a full off season to prepare as a second baseman. Remember, he didn't come to camp as a for sure thing at second base. He was still, a third baseman that kind of played a little bit of second base, if I remember right. So I think that'll help him. But yeah, I mean, I think you need to prepare. Maybe there's a little bit more of a slump. You just hope that he continues to hit the ball out of the ballpark and continues to draw walks, even if maybe his average takes a little bit of a dip. But yeah, I mean, everyone sees shortstop as this big, giant issue and problem where you have two guys that maybe, are both capable. I think it's a great thing. I think you go to camp with both of them. I think they both push each other to be better. And you let camp settle it. You can never have too many good players, too many fringe good players, too many whatever. I only see it as a good thing. I only see, Jose coming up and seeing Kyle Farmer tear it up in the end of the year as a positive. Him saying, hey, I've got to work if I want to take this position. We hope Jose does what Jonathan India did this year, and he comes to camp and he runs with it.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that last point, Jonathan India, and I was 100% like this. I thought he was going to be a bust. I did not see it. The minor league numbers looked very pedestrian. And then he had he has a season like this because you get a little bit older, you get more used to, major league pitching or the higher levels of the minors. And Jose Garcia is still young, 22, 23. And several people have said in the industry that there's never been a larger gap between AAA and the MLB ever in terms of just talent right now. I don't know why they just went on. I've heard that on several podcasts, and everyone that they've interviewed said the major league is just, I think that just has to do with pitching right now. It's so ridiculously good. It's going to take time to adjust. And Nick, you mentioned letting both of them kind of play, and they're both, pretty good, and they could be an average. Back in the day, it was just kind of, if you had a good fielding shortstop, who cares what they do offensively? That's just changed now, in terms of just like perspectives. So I think that's going to be interesting. I think Barrero could win that job. It makes the team so much better if he takes that step and wins it. Because at that point, Kyle Farmer is a super good bench bat. I mean, he's a below average starter and a really, really good bench bat who can play several positions and makes all of the substitutions, day off, platooning, everything across the entire team just became easier. So if the hope is Barrero can take over that job. Tim mentioned the free agents, Corey Seager,
Yes.
Carlos Correa, Trevor Story. I mean, there's going to be people that are going to be available, maybe even like a Gleyber Torres if one of those top people go to the Yankees. There's going to be a lot of shortstops available this offseason. I just don't see the Reds investing that money there when they have, other holes and some salary already tied up that's kind of bad salary. You all have touched on India. I don't want to take too long with him. I'm going to talk about him at the end, actually, as well. So I'll bypass India right now.
Cool.
Yeah, India, I don't think there's really much to talk about there. I mean, that's going to be his job for the foreseeable future. At shortstop, I mean, you guys touched on it. It's got to be, Barrero's got to take it. It's not going to be given to him because he hasn't shown anything in the last 2 years, which, that first year is kind of hard to, judge him on that, but it did happen. So you do have to go by those numbers. Like those numbers I go by more than what he did this year at AAA. Because like you said, that gap is it's so different. It's not even close. Like the pitching is way better at the big league level than it is at the minor league level. And, for some hitters, it's easier to hit at the big league level. You hear that all the time. The pitchers are more consistent. They're in the strike zone more. You know what you're going to get. They can hit. So he's just got adjustments, and you can see his wheels grinding when he's taking ABs that, he's trying to figure it out. He's not, I don't think he was anywhere close to figuring it out this year. There were several ABs where it just didn't look like he had a clue what was going on. And Kyle Farmer has obviously, won the position over with his teammates and his coach for doing a fine job. And, whenever you'll say that he's a below average shortstop, he's below average by 8 points, maybe overall. Like he's well above average versus a left-handed pitcher. He did really, I think that's like Nick touched on. It's like one of the least of their worries is the shortstop position. I'm going over center field, right field, and then probably, starting pitching and then bullpen and then shortstop. Like it's probably the last one that I'm worried about just because we know that you've got at least two guys that can fill that if you need it, if you're not going to go out and get somebody. And then if I'm Jose Barrero, I'm playing everywhere I can this winter. I'm playing center field. I'm playing left field. I'm playing right field. I'm playing shortstop, third base. You see it. Nick talks about it all the time. I mean, just be Chris Bryant. He can do it. He's more athletic than Chris Bryant. I promise you that. If you see that guy run around in shortstop, or seen him run around the outfield, he's more
runs
athletic,
like a slot receiver.
Do it, but he's just so young and he's never done it before because all he's ever been told is you're going to be this great shortstop. And you hear Barry Larkin talking about, hey, we're going to spend some time because Barry Larkin's pretty much saying in so many words, he needs a lot of work at shortstop. He's not what everybody thinks he is at shortstop. In the few amount of games that we've seen there's been balls that have been dug out. There's been errant throws. There's been errors that didn't happen because of a replay. Like he just needs some seasoning, man. He's a young guy. I touched on it last time. Players, grow differently. Like he can, in 3 years, he could be the starting shortstop for the National League. Like that's how good he can be, but he's just not ready yet. And he's got a lot to prove this offseason. And if he wants to take that job, it's there for the taking because we already know what Kyle Farmer is. Like this is probably peak Kyle Farmer, right? And so if he goes and he comes out, and doesn't even necessarily have to hit 400 in spring training, but just put together quality at-bats, which the manager knows what that looks like. His teammates know what that looks like. The GM knows what that looks like. A lot of us don't know what that looks like whenever we're sitting there watching games or checking the box score the next day. That's stuff that the trained eye and that have seen thousands and thousands of ball games and at-bats can tell if he's ready or not.
Yeah, I wish Billy Hamilton had a Kyle Farmer to kind of, push him along because Billy Hamilton he was given the job 2014. never one time improved on base, which is literally the only thing the Reds ever wanted out of him, was just to be a slightly below average on base guy. Like, didn't even have to be an above average. And he never got close to that. So yeah, I view it as a positive, you know. Hey, he's going to push him this offseason. And to Clay's point, the Reds are a much better team if Jose comes to camp and runs with it, because his ceiling is so much higher than Farmer. You know, Farmer's ceiling is at best pushing an average shortstop, which is fine. All the credit in the world to him. He wasn't even supposed to be a shortstop. But if Jose comes to camp and he hasn't done whatever the Reds asked him to do this offseason, he hasn't, you know, put in the work. Not saying he won't. We hope he does. It's nice to have that option. Hey, we're going to send you down to AAA. We're going to have Kyle. He's going to play great defense for us. And you go down, you work, and you come back up. You know, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. How funny would it be if, like, Tucker wins a Gold Glove and then he's gone, and then Farmer's like top 3 in the Gold Glove finish, and then he's not the starting shortstop next year
on a bad defensive team.
I was gonna say, for a team that's really brutal defensively.
We hate defense. If you're good, you're out.
Yeah. Oof. Carlos, you probably remember this more than obviously any of us do. So for his case being Barrero, is this something where you can see, like, you know, he plays like winter ball and like maybe still does instructs, or since he's already had major league experience, his instructs out of the way now?
Yeah, instructs is out. Like, I thought there was a chance he might go to the Arizona Fall League. I don't even know if they're having that this year. But I think that's done. He's more of a winter ball type of player now.
So, and I don't know. I mean, I honestly, did you play in winter ball at all, like Dominican League or the Mexican League or anything like that?
I went to Venezuela, and then as soon as I got there, I like pulled my groin. So no.
Okay. So like if he goes there, let's say, like, because I remember like Pablo Sandoval would go there, but like, is it something where like he goes there and like the Reds like will tell like the Dominican team like we want him to play center field, or is like something like that, or is it just like he goes there and does what he does?
No, the organization can say what he wants. His agent can say what he wants to do, and he can accept the job or not.
Okay.
But it's that type of deal. But then again, when it comes to like the playoffs, then they'll do whatever they want to do.
Okay. That makes sense. I just figured I would ask for, you know, because like you said, like your idea for him is play as much as you can wherever you can. And I totally agree with you. So I just was kind of curious there. All right. 2 more positions before we get out of here. Obviously, first base. I think Joey Votto has definitely earned the right to be the first baseman of the Cincinnati Reds as long as he wants. No one here is going to fight that, right?
No. What a season.
Yeah. And
I don't know. What do you think, Marty? No, he's cool.
Oh boy. I just kind of think about like first base too, like the free agency is not super deep anyway. So cool. Maybe they get some like corner infielder who can play behind Suarez and Votto if it's not Moose. Again, fingers crossed. And that's the only thing I can think of. Will he be a Red next year? I don't think he will.
I think he is. I don't think they're going to get anything for him. I mean, I think unless they're making some sort of big deal and he's kind of more of one of those like nice pieces to add into it, I don't think they're going to trade him. I would be surprised if they trade him in a standalone deal, because I don't think they're going to get the value for him that they're going to think they should get, and they're just saying, oh, whatever, send him to camp next year, let's see what happens. I mean, Nick Senzel stays healthy for most of a season or half of a season. He's a valuable player to the Reds. I mean, you know, the Reds struggles against left-handed pitching. Nick Senzel would have helped. Could have been worse than half the guys they ran out there. And he plays good defense, you know, which the Reds struggle on defense, you know. He would have helped some of that as well. So
he can also play multiple positions.
Yeah. Like the guys like I wanted, like Chris Taylor, Marte from the D-backs, like that's what Nick Senzel could be, you know, if everything goes right for him. So he's one of those, man, you're going to give him away and he's going to
kill it.
You know it.
Freaking awesome. Oh. Yeah.
But that's exactly what I touched on earlier. If you're not going to add payroll, you have to get creative. You have to take risky trades. And it's not always going to work, but sometimes it does. And how many times do we hear about a trade that, you know, at the time looked bad that ended up being good? To me, I think we all need to change expectations of Nick Senzel. 2nd overall pick. Everyone wanted him to be this all-star. I don't think he's going to reach that ceiling. I think they started to transform him into what I think he's going to be, which is just a utility player who plays more often than he doesn't, but isn't necessarily an everyday player. Moving him to second base and third base, center field, and play him all over the place, play him against lefties. To me, I think that's what he's going to be. I just think the ceiling and expectations on him need to change. And if they trade him, that's fine. If you address a need on your team and all you give up is somebody who's been injured a lot, and don't get me wrong, he is a good player. Do not get me wrong. But you have to take a risk. That other team's taking probably a larger risk, bringing in a guy who hasn't proven much in, 3 seasons and has been injured. It's just part of it. If you're not going to add payroll, but you want to improve, you have to be risky.
I'm with it.
Yeah, I'm not against. Sorry, one more. I'm not against trading Nick Senzel, but I'm not trading Nick Senzel to get, a marginal reliever. I'm not trading him to get like Michael Givens like this last year.
Right.
It better be helping you get over the top for a big deal or a difference maker. And I have pretty much zero expectations for Senzel. Anything he does is great, but he's just the kind of guy with that upside that the Reds need.
And maybe it's a deal where it's failed prospect for failed prospect. I don't want to label him that way, but everyone knows what I'm talking about when I say it like that. Another guy like a Nick Senzel in a different organization, higher draft pick, hasn't worked out, change of scenery type thing. I'm all for that because it seems like Senzel doesn't necessarily love the situation he's in Cincinnati. Change of sceneries are good sometimes. Just if you can find somebody of a similar situation as him, maybe it's best for both parties.
I don't think it would match up, but him for Kyle Lewis would be fun just because that was the 2 players the Reds were considering. I mean, I think the Reds would have to throw in more to get Kyle Lewis, obviously. I don't think the Mariners are down on Kyle Lewis other than he's gotten hurt a lot too. But that would be that. Do you think they are down on Lewis?
I think what their issue is they're extremely worried about his knee. He, tore up his knee, came back, and this is like in the minors or whatever. He tore his ACL or something, came back, had a great rookie year, got injured on the same knee again. And I guess I will expose myself. I listen to just about every team's Locked On podcast almost daily. I listen to probably 15 to 20 a day. And they were talking about it, and I've heard it kind of around now that they're kind of open to moving him. They have so much outfield depth. So much. If they bring back Haniger, I mean, they could afford to do that. And that's exactly the move I'm talking about. You want to improve at a different position. Sometimes you have to trade, from a position of strength or, a risky move.
You heard it here first.
Kyle Lewis for Moustakas.
Let's do it. I'm in. All right, catcher. Tyler Stevenson's the guy. We don't think Tucker Barnhart will be next year because it's too much money. Who's the guy?
I heard a report earlier today that Mr. Barnhart went on a radio show in Indianapolis, and it sounded very pessimistic about the Reds retaining him, which is what we thought. I think at least I thought. I don't think there's a chance. If you just look through the Reds salaries, I don't see how that money matches up. And you can go get a backup catcher. Not one as good as Tucker Barnhart, but you can go get a backup catcher for a lot of money and then use that money towards other more pressing dire needs.
Yeah, there's money they got to pass around. It's also even to the guys that they just need to give raises to. As we talked about earlier, Nick, and I mean, if you're Tucker Barnhart, why do you want to come? You wouldn't want to come back. I mean, you're going to be possibly winning your 3rd Gold Glove and then going to be a backup catcher. I don't think so. You're going to go play wherever somebody's going to give you a starting role. And I mean, you can't blame the guy. I wish all the best of luck to him. I'd love for him to come back and be a backup, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah.
Barnhart could definitely get a platoon role on the right side where he's facing all the right-handed pitching and playing 70% of the time for someone. So for him, the best thing would be to, I think, go.
Because what is Tyler going to be? Is he going to be a top 5 hitting catcher next year?
Maybe top 10, probably not that high, but
really not that high.
I think he's going to be incredible.
I mean, I'm a massive Tyler Stevenson fan, but you're talking the Will Smiths, the Buster Posies.
You hate Buster.
Yeah, I mean, Real Muto. I mean, there's some really, really good Salvador Perez. Mitch Garver.
Who he play for?
The Twins. Mitch Garver's been a really good hitter the last couple of years. I said, Stevenson was 9th this year among catchers with 100 plate appearances. So I think he's probably in the 6 to 10 range.
We should start doing some over under bets on that. We'll put it on the board.
Prop bets. Yeah.
All off season, we'll do a bet every week.
So Clay, why do I feel like Alex Avila is going to be backing up Tyler Stevenson next year?
He actually is retiring. So that's going to be difficult.
Thank God.
Idiot.
Alex Avila has been a national for 2 months, and he got a freaking standing ovation when he left the field.
Tim,
what is that crap?
Tim, were you not watching the Nationals Red Sox big game on Sunday?
No, I wasn't. I was watching Tom Brady play his former team on Sunday Night Football.
Oh. That was 8
o'clock.
I
want to touch quickly on the catcher situation. One thing that was overlooked all year, which was incredible, was they stayed healthy. I mean, hardly. And think about the years when Juan Gratterall and you do not want to be scrambling and rotating in a bunch of AAA catchers because A, they're probably not going to hit it all. And B, these pitchers don't know them. They don't throw to them often. I mean, it really could lead to some disastrous situations. So the fact that they stayed healthy all year was a huge blessing. Tyler Stevenson's going to take over that job. Tucker's going to go somewhere like Oakland where he'll get still a majority of starts but be able to groom a young catcher. They took a first-round catcher, Tyler Sumstrom or something like that. And I could see him taking that role where he'll still get at bats, make $4, $5, $6 million, and kind of help a younger guy. So that's kind of what I see from the catcher position. In terms of a backup, there's several vets. Most of them are your 34-year-old. Holy shit, is this going to go well, or is he, have nothing left in the tank? In terms of organizational depth, that has been my biggest gripe for the past 2 or 3 years was catcher organizational depth. It's there now, but it's all single A, and that's about it. Low A, so it's in the organization, but it's not ready for next year.
What about the kid?
We get Tyler Steven some maple bats or some ash bats instead of those wet newspapers, so we can get some power. He's tired of seeing these singles.
Opposite field singles.
That he's a large human. We need some Oppo tanks, more of them.
I will say he runs pretty well for a catcher. I know he's young.
Super good looking athlete.
Yeah.
God, he had the same amount of home runs as Molina this year.
10.
And no, Molina had more. Molina had 11.
Rude.
All right, I got to watch this game. Let's go. Let's wrap this up, baby. It's 1-1 still, right?
Yeah, 1-1, bottom 6, full count. Oh, the Cardinals are walking now. They're in the bullpen.
Take us on home, Tim. Take us on home.
They do not have good command, and this is where the game is going to be lost. You can't – Wainwright was pitching well. I understand why they took him out. But now you're getting to the bullpen. Cardinals are about to shit the bed. They cannot throw strikes. The Dodgers are too veteran and too patient. It's game over.
Don't you know how to say those
season
things?
Review?
That's it.
I've talked about 6 different teams. What the hell is wrong with me?
That's it.
Well,
Dodgers are winning 5-1.
We're at an hour 45 today on this one. If people are still listening,
They're not.
Check out quiet.
They're not.
Yeah.
Starting
Yeah.
pitching, relief pitching. Let's go.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, real quick, starting pitching, relief pitching. Obviously, starting pitching, a lot of strength, a lot to be excited about. I don't know if Sonny Gray will be a Red next year, as we talked about last week, but the depth is there, and obviously, there's two guys everyone's excited to see pitch next year.
Yeah, I think it would make sense to pick up Miley's contract and maybe look to move either him or Sonny. Maybe move one of them. I think Reds fans probably need to look at either keeping Miley or Tucker. Pick one there. I think we all know who the Reds should pick. And then I think if
Agreed.
you're looking at Green and Lodolo, I think if one of those are an impact starter next year, I think that's a great thing. I think expecting both of them to be impact starters is probably a stretch. I don't know which one. I think it's probably a coin flip. So I would kind of look into that and say, hey, hopefully one of those guys can lock up a spot for us.
Yeah, what they had in Santillan, like I'd rather see him as a long relief guy. Maybe kind of if somebody's hurt. Gutierrez, he kind of worries me a little bit. Like, he had a good strong year, but that was the first time that everybody saw him. Second time through, they started getting his number a little bit, and I just don't see the stuff being there for him to be able to last to be a number 4 or 5 starter right now. Maybe it'll develop a little bit more. But he's definitely a good guy to have in AAA to be able to call up for a couple of spot starts here and there. Or if somebody gets hurt long term, like, we've seen what he can do, but I don't know. It's not a bad thing to have somebody like Gutierrez in the organization for sure.
Yeah, I'll just touch on Wade Miley, and I think that they should trade him, pick up the option and trade him. And the reason why is I just don't trust a repeat performance from somebody of his age who, is kind of throws soft. And we love to say, Suarez is going to bounce back. Look at the back of his baseball card. Like, well, look at the back of Wade Miley's baseball card. It works both ways. His trade value has literally never been higher, and he's 34 years old, going to be 35. Like, I would trade him,
For my
use that 10 million elsewhere, type of a, situation. I just think you're flirting with disaster. He's been good, and I'm not saying he's not a good pitcher, that he won't be good next year. I'm just saying he's not going to be the pitcher he was this year. And if you can capitalize on a 35-year-old Wade Miley's trade value, then I would do that.
I like it. So real quick, Raymer San Martin starts the year in Louisville. Any chance he gets some starts next year for the Reds?
I like him, and I was tweeting about him all year long in Louisville. He was the throw-in in the Sonny Gray trade, who's looking like he could potentially be more. He's kind of a lottery ticket. He's a very interesting arm slot, which is really what caught my eye and why I started watching him when he came over. I had thought he would be projected more towards a bullpen guy, honestly. Just because if he could be consistent, you can bring in that arm slot from the left side in a game where you've been seeing a hard throwing righty all day from a high angle, bring in kind of a sidearm lefty that's just going to be tough to adjust to. I'm sure that they'll keep him as a starter for now. I still think long term he would probably end up, putting together a longer career from the bullpen. And I still think it's probably unlikely that he ever becomes, a 50 game appearance guy out of the bullpen or more or anything. But you need depth. You need guys you can call up and are not named Carson Fulmer. And, he's definitely a guy who's an improvement on what they have had. And they're definitely going to look for a lefty because Sean Doolittle experiment failed. Amir Garrett was Amir Garrett. CNL Perez, you all know how I feel about him. I think him, there's going to be some competition and spots open for left-handers.
Cool. All right. So last part. How many guys? Let's just do this with the bullpen, because how many guys that are currently in the Reds bullpen are on the team next year?
Lucas Sims, Tony Santillan, Luis Sessa, Amir Garrett, he's going to be on the team. If
He's not going to be on the opening day roster.
they would have cut Amir Garrett if they were not planning on having him in the opening day.
They're going to see how he's going to come back in spring, and he's not going to make the team. Anyway, go ahead.
All right. Claim I'm missing anyone?
Justin Wilson?
I haven't even looked at the roster.
Justin
This
Wilson is
question really caught me off.
Justin Wilson has a player option.
Oh, okay. He gone.
I would imagine he's going to choose that. He's not going to get a better deal anywhere else. So maybe maybe 5. Antone's out for the year. Am I missing
So he
anyone?
tweeted today.
Lorenzen, this
Lorenzen's
is under the
gone.
assumption Lorenzen's gone.
Yeah,
How
he's going to
about,
be in Oakland next year.
Givens is gone.
Moretta,
Yeah, maybe.
Ari Moretta.
He's probably fighting for it. Yeah, I mean, I think there's less bullpen spots.
Oh,
I think we
sorry.
think like there's going to be like 10 bullpen spots open, and I think
How
they
about
have
Art
a little.
Warren?
Yeah, Art Warren's probably one. I mean, I think there's like.
Oh, so just bring them all back, huh?
Yeah, it's the best bullpen in the league, right?
Fucking awesome. I used to
I think
ruin
all
my
those
night.
guys come to camp.
Yeah.
I think all those guys except for Garrett all pitched pretty well down the stretch.
Art
I
Warren
know.
is really interesting.
So pitched well. Warren pitched
Older
well.
rookie, played, pitched well in AAA, like pitched well this year. I don't know. He could be kind of a diamond in the rough, which they went through like 30 bad pitchers to find 1 or 2 good ones. But
What I say with Art Warren is he has options. The Reds had no one this year who they could ship up and down. So it's really nice to have a guy like Art Warren that you can ship up and down. Santillan probably has locked in a role, but he's another guy. At least they can start the year with several guys that could go back and forth. Whereas they were penciled in with like everyone except for
Givens a free agent? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Givens is a free agent. I doubt he returns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
don't think
do.
so.
All right. Last thing before we get out of here. Go real quick. Reds MVP this season and why? Jonathan India stayed healthy, leadoff position, going to be rookie of the year. That's my pick.
I'm Jonathan India. I think I've already made the case throughout the year.
I was also India, and the reason why is not only because of his bat, but the fact that he solved the leadoff spot, which is something the Reds haven't had in forever. And that was more important than I think what Nick did this year, what Jesse did this year, solving the leadoff spot. And if it weren't for India, who would be at second base? Moose. I mean, it's just incredible what he was able to provide.
I mean, I don't really have an MVP. I don't think anybody put together quite that great of a year. I mean, Nick had a spurts, Joey had a spurts, Jonathan had a spurts. I mean, whatever. That's my
Kyle
take on
Farmer?
it. Uh-huh.
Kyle Farmer.
Oof.
I think honestly, like if you're going team MVP, I think there is 5 guys that are all kind of really close. Votto, India, Castellanos, Winker, even Malley and Castillo. I mean, I think all those guys were all really good, all really close to overall value.
I agree. Well, I know this is a lengthy off-season season review. So thank you for those of you who toughed it out with us and those who didn't. Hope you enjoyed the segment you did listen to. Thank you all as always for your support. Clay, thank you as always for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
If you get a moment, please take a moment to get on your Apple Podcast and give us a nice solid 5-star review and subscribe to us on your podcast of app of choice. Everyone, have a good night and go Reds.
See ya.